Domino Thinking presents Natural Born Speakers with your host, Allison Donaghy. If you are born to talk and want to know how to build your career around it, then Natural Born Speakers is the show for you. Now grab your seat because this is the place to be. Now here is your host, Allison.
Hi, and thanks for joining us. And today is a sunny day, and I'm always happier when it's a sunny day because the cold makes me miserable. I actually did a Facebook Live yesterday because I was wearing my winter boots, and this is August. This should be our hot season, and it's not. But today it's nice out, so I'm super, super happy about that. And not just that, I have a great guest today. He was recommended to me by Mark. I don't know if you remember listening to Mark not that long ago. He was a guest on my show. Brilliant speaker, and then I did a documentary with him about creating my ultimate speech. And he sent me an email not that long ago, and he said, I have this great guy that you need to talk to. And his name is Karan, and I may pronounce that wrong, and I'm really going to work on getting it right, so I'm apologizing in advance. And he says, Karan was a student of mine. He was bright, engaged, and had one of the wickedest stutters I've ever heard. Normally, that would be entirely un-PC to say, especially in an intro email. But he is different. He's actually taking his speech impediment by the scruff of the neck and turning it into an icon of how to overcome pretty much anything. And I have been talking to Karan for a while here before the show started, and I'd heard no evidence of it. And I'm most excited to hear about what he did to get over this. So welcome, Karan.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
Okay, I guess it's already in, but hi, Allison. I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm really happy because I wasn't even going to get to talk to you until sometime in November. And
Right.
We had an opening this week because somebody went on holidays, and you stepped right in, and you're amazing for doing it. So thank you so much, and I'm happy we're getting to talk sooner.
Well, thank you, in fact, for actually having the opening, and the actual fact that I know we had kept in contact, and there was no time to speak till a couple of months. So the fact that you kept me in mind, I really appreciate that. Yeah, and so I'll just say this is the first time on air. I've for sure had a lot of chances in crowds and other areas, but I guess like to speak about Mark. So as Mark mentioned in his words, like I'm a student right now. I'll be approaching graduation in 5 weeks here.
Oh, congratulations! What are you taking?
Thank you. It's sure feeling like quite the accomplishment. I'm actually in the Bachelor of Commerce program at Royal Roads, and this program is actually focused on entrepreneurial management, which is a key word that we all have heard and is one of those buzzwords, I would say, that's out there.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yes, and becoming more and more popular all the time.
Right, and it's all about the entrepreneurial mindset and being able to really achieve what it is you want.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of the reason why I chose this program was because I wanted to learn more about myself, in fact.
Wow. Well, a lot of people will go into psychology to do that, but I think you made a better choice.
Well, I mean, why not be able to actually learn more about yourself and then pursue those goals that you have? And as being an entrepreneur, that's what you can do. And we've seen that with multiple people who are classified as an entrepreneur, whether that be like Steve Jobs to Bill Gates or the owner of Tom's, Blake Mykowski. And so I really wanted something that would allow me to hone in on my interest as a whole and still give me that backing in the probably most important part, which is usually the financial aspect, which can be challenging, but is quite important. However, I will just add a tidbit into that I think the power of social entrepreneurship, it has become a lot more evident and is becoming more and more popular.
How so? What do you think is
Um,
making it popular?
well, I think actually one of my profs, he really ingrained this one concept into us, and he said, so a social entrepreneur is somebody who makes a long-term benefit and change to society. So these
Mm-hmm.
days, we're focused on trying to actually do better for the world we're in, and trying to keep it, um, trying to allow it to actually basically sustain itself. And I think that's something that we're finding that a lot of the products and a lot of the ways that we live our lives should be by creating the smallest impact on the earth, and also providing a greater impact for everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's with the world shrinking as much as it is, and we have so much access to so many things, it is so important to understand our role in it and how we are affecting the world around us.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So I did go off topic a bit, and we can always get back to that.
Oh, that's the fun part, going off topic. Yeah, you do that all
So
you want.
back to Mark. So Mark was actually my instructor for a marketing class. So he was really good at being able to engage an audience, at being able to capture us in a classroom setting. And I have to be honest that at times that can be a bit intimidating, I guess, as a student.
Mm-hmm.
But in the process of all of that, I really learned from Mark and so many other faculty and instructors, and just in my own experience in the last couple of years of being in school, is that if you really want something, you really have to fight and get it, and you have to sometimes really defy those norms which are out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that was me allowing my stutter to hold me back. And
Right.
so it was as easy as that. It was that at times, and I think this can relate to any challenge or any barrier or however you want to classify it, but anything that you allow to hold yourself back will evidently cause more harm than it will cause benefit. And that was the essence of why I said I am determined to become the best speaker I can. I am determined to make this part of my career. I'm determined to really not challenge myself, but have that positive mindset to know that I can achieve what it is I want.
Right. So, how did your stutter hold you back?
So I I've engaged in courses such as Toastmasters and other public speaking companies or associations which enhance your speaking skills. But what I found that how it held me back was, and this is probably in my like childhood, not childhood, but I would say like more junior high, elementary, and probably even high school years, is that I would often, if I had to read something out loud, I would get nervous. And then being nervous even causes more stress, and more stress causes, I guess, lower confidence. And I think it came down to confidence, and it came down to my role and me being able to support what it was that I was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I've, I, and you know, I think a stutter really affects people differently. And I can't attest to everybody, and I can't speak for everybody, but for me, it was really something that I wanted to just, I found that yes, it was holding me back, but I didn't want that to happen. I didn't want it to say, okay, I'm a stutterer and that's it. It was like there are certain skills and tactics that people are taught, and I've gone to speech therapy as well. And so there's certain tactics that broadcasters use and actors use, and these are basically the movement of words. By changing the dynamic of how we speak, it can change how it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a really interesting journey. And I would say in the last 12 months, in the last year and a half, it's really brought me to a certain level that I've never been at in terms of being able to explore it, in terms of being able to explore myself and my understanding of it. And so as I mentioned, I'm really just excited to kind of take it to the next step and to let people know that regardless of what it is that you think might be holding you back, you can do it. And it just comes from within yourself, and how badly are you willing to actually practice and prep and fight for it. So
Mm-hmm. So like, was there like a catalyst that caused this change in you, or have you always been fighting it? Like, have you always trying to overcome it, or did you just succumb to it for a while and then decide enough's enough, it's time to do something about it? How did that look?
that's a good question. And I would have to say I definitely changed over time. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say there were moments in my life where I felt I maybe did not have control of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then recently, upon being close to entering the workforce, and upon having to choose a career for the rest of my life, which we don't do anymore, um,
Mm-hmm. That's true.
un unless you find something that you really love doing. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, I think it was speaking. And it's so interesting because just recently I was told, and I think I often have to take it from the other person's perspective. So if I'm speaking to somebody and I'm having a hard time saying what I'm trying to say, it makes it uncomfortable for the other person. And
Mm-hmm.
I understand that. And then in turn, that can make it more uncomfortable for me. So it really comes down to a level of comfort. And I think that's what I really was trying to achieve. I was trying to achieve comfort with it, but also the mastery, the ability to really understand it. And in that journey to challenge it and to say, you know what? So whatever you have that challenges you or that faces you, work with it and you can still achieve what you want.
Right. Yeah, that's good. So, do you think is this always going to be an ongoing process for you, or do you think you have it licked?
Hmm. I think from the day that we're born to the day that we die, we do nothing but grow, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a fact. And so I think it's always going to be an ongoing process for me. But that being said, that doesn't have to be in stutter, in the aspect of a stutter. That would be in the overall understanding of language as a whole. I love to speak other languages. I love to learn other languages. And I find often that I don't stutter when I speak other languages. So it's really interesting because there's so much background to it, and there's a lot of science behind it, and there's a lot of arguments for either end of it, and it's something that interests me, and it's it's interesting because I try to not focus on it as much and just focus more on my goal.
Mm.
So if I'm trying to become a speaker, okay, well, what do I have to do to get there?
Mm-hmm.
In
And
this
I think
sense,
that's great advice for anybody overcoming anything, is just keep your eye on the ball. Like, think about what your goal
right,
is and go for it. And it's terrific that you've been able to do this. It's now, because I can hear your stutter. Have
right.
you, has that been how it's always been, or have you improved it, or how has that looked?
So for myself, it's well, I think it'd be easier for other people when other people tell me, "Oh, your stutter has gotten better."
Mm-hmm.
To me, the understanding behind that is wow, I have improved. I can only get better from now. So
Mm-hmm.
just constantly working towards it and making sure that what I'm doing is enhancing and allowing my speech to be more fluent.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of how I keep track of it myself, I find the more I'm engaged and the more I build that confidence, the better it gets. So
Mm.
it's again working towards that goal. And then overall, you're finding that you are seeing improvements in your speech.
Right. Right. And it's like going back to what you talked about earlier, about making that impact in the world. If you are not willing to overcome those obstacles that you have, then how on earth can you make an impact? And we can all learn something from that about how important it is to get out of our own way, understand that we have a bigger role to play in the world, and then work
Exactly.
towards that.
Absolutely. And this is probably a great time if I could, I guess, segue into one of my projects that I started.
Please do.
So, yeah, absolutely. Actually, in the time I met Mark, I was working on a 1 month challenge. It was for a course that I was taking, and the aim of the course was to actually build a business and create a profit by the end of the month. Now, me being this social entrepreneur that I classify myself as, and I feel I have
Yes.
more interest towards,
Yeah.
I hosted an event. It was a completely free event. I called it the Speaking House,
Mm-hmm.
and the entire event embodied the aspect of allowing people to express their fears in the form of self-expression.
How
So
interesting.
yeah, and it was really great. It was held at my school, and it was a great chance for students to meet other students. It was a great opportunity for people to really step outside of what they know. And
Mm-hmm.
so we had people sharing stories of when they had felt the most fear. We had
Mm-hmm.
people sharing written word uh, poetry. And so that was a great chance for people to just learn from each other. And
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have any uh, live acts or any live performances, but I am still working on this project, and currently I'm doing my capstone, which is the end of my final degree. I'm doing my capstone project on the Speaking House, and
Mm-hmm.
I am now trying to target youth. So I'm trying to say, okay, with the experiences that I've had, how can I better myself, but actually make an impact other people's lives as well? So my goal is to empower youth again in forms of self-expression.
Right. Well, and what a great age to start at, where they're experiencing this. Like, let's just all get this out of the way when we're young so that we can grow into healthier adults.
right?
And often, I just think this is such a great idea to give people this platform in a safe environment where they're able to say it in front of a group and nothing bad happens.
Yes, and so they then receive the empowerment that they need as well. And by
Hmm.
being able to see people who've overcome whatever challenge it may be, they know that it's possible for them to attain their goal.
Hmm.
As-
Yes. And so one of the goals of this was to make money. So how did you make money on this?
so I'll have to be honest on that. The project was not profitable, and so therefore my current capstone is actually going to be a non-for-profit model. I
Okay.
think that would be the best way to approach it for now. And then down the road, I can always look into changing it into a for-profit model.
Right.
But
So how would people find information on this project?
so the project is still in the research stages because I'm actually creating a business plan for this company. However, I'm working on the website as we speak. So in the next month or so,
Hmm.
I will have the Speaking House website up and people can contact me via Facebook and I'll be able to direct them to that.
Okay. So Facebook is the best way, or email, Instagram? What would you prefer?
Facebook, email, and Instagram would actually be uh, great ways to contact me.
Okay.
On Instagram, they can follow me at K Wadwan. That's KWATHWAN.
Hmm.
And then at email, it's Karan, so KARAN 0793 at gmail.com. And
Perfect.
I'm open to feedback. I'm open to advice. I'm open to any comments, anything that anybody is willing to share, and even any inputs that people have for me moving forward.
Hmm. So it would be great to get support as well for this. What does that
Absolutely.
look like? Like what sort
So,
of help would or support or connections would you like to have?
so my ask would be to have the mentorship and the guidance in bringing this association and this company to life.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
so
that would be great.
that could be experts in the industry, that could be people who have an interest, that could be anybody who who has an understanding of the situation and of the end goal that I'm trying to achieve.
Hmm. Yeah, and that can come in all shapes and sizes. I always find it really interesting to put stuff out there, and then some of the times the things that come back to you are not at all what you were expecting, but they turn out to be absolutely brilliant.
Yes, absolutely. I think we often have to find like the best out of anything that we're doing.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so it just comes down to knowing that every contact you meet, every person that you interact with, there's always something that you need to be able to take out of that and find the most positive aspect of that.
Hmm. So, what is your big dream about this project?
So my big dream about this project was to actually host a talk show. It was to actually empower people and allow them to understand what other people have done by not allowing challenges to hold them back, and to have it in a form that would be number one, entertaining. Number two, that would allow me to work on my skills. I love to public speak and I like to be on the stage.
Hmm.
And lastly, I think this is a media form that is a lot more eye-catching and people are interested in watching today rather than just um, showing up to an actual event. I think
Mm-hmm.
if I think long term, having an actual talk show would be something that I would love to do.
Right. And it would be great. So on this talk show, then is the vision to have people come on and express their fears? What does that look like?
I think it would be more of the understanding of how they achieved what they've done and
Mm,
the the knowledge being passed on that, you know, I had so and so, or I struggled with this barrier or this challenge, but I did not let that hold me back, and this is where I am today because of that.
mm. So you get to
And
follow their journey a little bit.
yeah, I think the
Mm-hmm.
power of stories is something that it just actually captures any audience.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. So, you talked briefly about being a speaker.
Right.
What is your vision for that? Like, what have you done? When did it start? Where are you going with it?
That's a very good question. I have to be humble and honest and say I am in the early stages.
Mm.
Absolutely. This is my first time on air.
And you're doing
Excuse me.
beautifully, by the way.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
So in terms of my experiences, public speaking and being able to, I would say I've honed a lot of my speaking skills in my schooling. So
Mm-hmm.
my background is actually hotel management. So I was in school for a couple of years doing that. I have been on multiple board of director roles with non-for-profits where I work with large groups of people.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to collaborate with one another has always been a natural act for me. Again, I've honed most of my public speaking skills by my own practice. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the only public speaking skills that I've had in audiences is more of being an MC and with my current endeavor into the speaking house earlier this year. But I'm always looking for gigs and any option that I can get where I'm able to practice these skills. I'm always looking to do that. And so far, I've got a couple of them lined up into next year, and I'm finding they're not paid, and that's okay because I'm gaining the experience from them
Yes.
right now.
Well, and I have
So
lots of speaking coaches come on air with me talking about
right,
how even when you're not getting paid for something, the value of doing it is tremendous.
amazing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what do you talk about?
So I would say with the speaking house because I'll speak to that one as my most recent practice. I would say I try and share my experience, but really I want to get a crowd to be able to share with each other.
Mm,
And so when I held the speaking house, it was more about the interaction with the speaker and the audience. I
hmm
find in a school setting when you have five students at the front of a classroom and we have to present something on a topic, it's very easy to lose the audience and it's very easy to not be engaged. And I've felt that from either end, from being in the classroom and from actually being able to present something. And so what I'm finding is that you really have to really engage with the audience and be a bit more, you have to allow them to, you have to almost let them into your conversation.
Mm.
And so that's done, I think, with multiple speaking techniques and being open and being able to let your guard down at times. So often I find that in terms of my stutter, if I was to start a conversation with that, it definitely makes it a lot easier going into it, rather
Mm.
than me having to have it pop up and then it's kind of the hard point where it might make it more difficult for either audience. And that goes back to my story that I was trying to share earlier, where it if if whoever is if there's two people speaking and one thinks that the other is having a hard time saying what they're trying to say, once you drop that ego and you really just engage in a conversation with the person, it really gets easier. And that's something that I've been trying to work on myself.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you're ahead of the curve thinking this way, because the days of having somebody standing on the stage reading a PowerPoint are so far behind us. And
Exactly.
the audience is searching for more. They're wanting that interaction and being a more collaborative experience than a solo experience.
And I kind of wish that was the case in schools. And I think that it is going to change. And I think that they are changing as well. We do often get the chance to create more of a creative project. And that's something that I find highly effective, because these are the moments where you feel connected to the person who's sharing something with you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because when people matter, they feel more inclined to participate. Maybe that's what you need to do, or you could do, you don't need to, you could connect with school systems for their development days and talk to teachers about how to do this.
That would actually be awesome. Wow.
Yeah, I think.
I never think about that. So thank you. That's great.
You're welcome. I see there's such a need for schools to change, and what you're talking about doing. Part of the reason I think schools need to change is because they lack that engagement. But what you're talking about right now here is perfect engagement.
Right. Yeah.
You'll have to keep me posted on how that works for you.
I will. Absolutely.
Yes, I'm going to be watching that journey, just so you know. Yeah, and you've traveled a lot too. I'm looking at your bio here,
right.
and wow, I'm a little envious.
Hello, I
I
think
am.
sorry, the world is so small today that we can go from where we are on the islands on the west coast of BC to China in a matter of 12 hours.
Yeah, it's insane. It is. And so you've been to 22 countries, it says here.
Right.
Where have you been?
Okay, so I guess I'll start with how it all began.
Yes.
I was actually born in Spain. There's a set of 5 small islands on the top of Spain. These are known as the Canary Islands, and I was born in a beautiful island in one of the 5 in a city called Las Palmas. And I I I would attest that a lot of my traveling has been due to the fortunate encounter of my family being able to take me there, or having family members in these other countries. So I was actually born in Spain. I spent my childhood in West Africa. I actually went to school till the age of 9 in Lagos, Nigeria. And then I moved to Canada in 2001. And so I think I've really, in terms of where I've been stationed for a long time, I've really been able to absorb different cultures and been able to really allow myself to see either end of the world. So upon graduating high school, I traveled to India for about 4 months. And in this time, I was out of high school and I did not know what I wanted to pursue. I actually pursued an internship with an ad agency. Excuse me, and that was a great starting point for me. I was able to enter the corporate world early. I was able to gain experience in a country that I did not know how they conducted business, but being having a family background from India, I was really intrigued by the food, and I was really intrigued by the entire culture and the fact that every part of India was so different in terms of what was offered.
Mm-hmm.
In my childhood, I was so fortunate to travel to countries such as Paraguay in South America, travel to Hong Kong in Asia, travel to now in Canada. I think because I've stayed here for so long, most of my trips have been either a combined holiday. So recently, in the last 2 years, I was able to actually do, and this might sound crazy, but and it's not something that I would do again because I know how I like to travel, but I was able to travel across 8 countries in 12 days.
Wow.
And so I took a tour from the UK and worked my way all around to Paris.
Nice.
So in there, you're going to Italy, Switzerland, Germany, Austria, the Netherlands, and basically all these travels that I've engaged in have really just opened my eyes to the beautiful people, the beautiful cultures, to the understanding that the value of human life, it's really amazing, and it's something that we really have to experience to the most that we can. And unfortunately, in some countries, it's not as high as it should be, and that's the hard part. And I think that's the reason why I really do strive to not only better myself, but to better those around me and see what I can contribute to the world.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so do you have any
So,
plans to go anywhere else right now?
I was, I mean, I'll be graduating the next 5 weeks, so I would love to travel. And right now, that's not on my schedule. However, I'm finding, regardless of where my career is going to take me, that being able to travel and traveling and being able to share my perspective across countries is something that will be prominent for sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
So what was it that allowed you to travel so much? Were your parents in oil and gas, or what were they doing that allowed this travel?
No, not at all. Well, my family, we moved, as I was saying, from Africa to Canada, and every other travel that I've done has been self, uh, I guess, sup, self-supported. But when I look back, I would definitely say that my father has been a great impact into what has enabled me to get the travel bug, and what has allowed me to travel, and not only to travel but to have that want and an understanding of the world. My dad is actually an I guess when you look back, an entrepreneur was also known as a businessman. So I would classify my dad as just an ordinary man who does business. And that can mean anything really, but my dad focused a lot on imports and exports. And till this point now, he's moved on into other areas. He's actually in real estate now, but till now, anytime he gets a chance to import any product that he finds is lacking in Canada or lacking elsewhere, he's always still working on that. And so back in the day, when you had to import or export an item, it wasn't as easy as Alibaba. It was basically you had to go there and you had to be in the factory and you had to meet with the contacts, be able to actually shake their hand and confirm that deal. So my dad at my age was actually, he was able to gain a job in Asia. And so he traveled to Taiwan and Korea, and he was able to really travel at an early age, which enabled him to then work across the globe, which has really empowered me to want to gain that understanding. And right now I've gone to almost every continent. I haven't hit yet Australia, and I haven't hit Antarctica. So those are two that still need to be done.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I want to go everywhere. Traveling is just such a great way of self-discovery. Like I say all the time that it is better than any self-help book that you are ever going to read or any program that you're ever going to take, because especially when you travel outside of an all-inclusive, when it's you and your backpack and a language you don't understand and people you don't know, and you get to meet people. And I think it is such a remarkable gift we can give to ourselves when we travel.
Absolutely. I think when we travel, we in fact become something else along that journey. I find that we let go almost, would you say?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's easy to, when we're engaged in our lives and we are putting on the masks of who we need to be and what we need to get done, and we're going through the motions. When we're at home, when we travel, there's no need for that anymore. So everything gets to slow down a little bit. And I know personally, I really get to be, and I spend a lot of time alone because I'm an entrepreneur. I have my own business. And so I meet like a few people a day, but not on a grand scale. So I do spend a lot of time alone, but it is a different type of alone that is when I travel. Because here I could always just pick up the phone and say, hey, you want to go for dinner to somebody? There, it's learning how to communicate with people differently, how to connect with people differently. And in doing so, I get to learn so much about who I am. And when I talk to other people who travel, they seem to have that similar experience.
Yes, I think that's exactly it. I think it's like when we're staying where we are, we have that comfort with us. And when we're stepped into a situation where we don't know what is next, that's when it really allows you to grow. And I think that's that self growth that really happens. And so I'm currently in Victoria, BC, Canada, and I am
beautiful
actually
city.
Spectacular. They say once you come west, you don't go east, and I'm definitely starting to feel that.
Yeah, because you were in Calgary before, so I can certainly understand how this would be a lot better than that. No offense to all the Calgary listeners out there, but your weather is a little bit temperamental.
It's it can definitely get cold, but again, it's something that you just get used to. And I would have to say, staying here for the past year, I've gotten really used to the warm weather. So it would be hard to jump right back in. Um,
Yes. I
if
remember going to the
you
Stampede one year and I got a sunburn, I got hailed on, I got rained on, all in the space of an afternoon. I was just like, this is hell. It's not okay. So I can understand how you'd get used to it here.
Yeah, actually, Calgary is one of those cities where it can go from -10 to +10 in the exact same day. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's nuts. Nuts. But we're glad to have you here on the islands.
thank you. And I think in terms of the island, actually, I find that a lot of people they enjoy traveling across the island itself. I find that there's so much to see, and
Hmm.
from the people who I've spoken to, and from my own perspective, it's like when I'm on the island, I have a hard time leaving the island. And so being able to explore everything that you can in the area is really great. But I definitely find that like there's once once I step out, and I will be stepping out, and I will be constantly traveling and furthering my own growth, because again it comes down to, as you said, being able to be in a space where you don't know what is next.
Hmm. Yes, I
So
think there's something remarkable about that.
yeah, and we only get one shot at it. So we really it's about trying to capture that moment in its
Hmm.
time.
Yes, and I am a firm believer that try everything at least once. It's gotten me into
I
some rather, difficult predicaments, but I'm still a big fan of trying everything at least once.
I know I can agree with that you have to try it to understand that if it is something that you want to do, and if it's challenging, it just means you have to work on it a bit more.
Hmm.
And
Well,
so,
because I think those are if you don't try it, those are the things that come back and haunt you when you're 80. And you remember back and you're like, oh, I was there and I just chickened out and I didn't try it. And I think in order to make your retirement in your older days more peaceful, do everything you can now without regret.
absolutely. Um,
Hmm.
happiness, right? Happiness is again one of those big buzz words that is almost in every article these days.
Yeah, and it's
And
such a misunderstood term.
oh, so misunderstood. And I think if we just look to past text and to past stories, and really look as to like what makes people happy,
Hmm.
it's a lot easier to achieve that. But because we have a lot going on, and there isn't that focus, the focus of what you want and what you have around you really needs to be put into perspective when we think about happiness.
Hmm. Definitely. And what our own definition of it is. I read this great book called Stumbling on Happiness. I read it a few years back. And the author talked about how we use happy to describe something that's not actually happy. So if somebody gets married, you say, "Oh, I'm really happy for you." Personally, I don't understand marriage, so I would never say that. But um, so they say, "I'm really happy for you," but are they actually happy? Like, does that bring them joy that somebody else is getting married? I suppose there are certain people who do actually get really happy and excited when people get married. And for them, it's probably true. But for most of us, when we hear somebody say, "I'm engaged," we say, "I'm so happy for you." We are misleading ourselves as to what happiness actually means. And
I
it muddies it further. And then we just get further and further away from what actually happiness means to ourselves.
I think that's really interesting. And so would hey, sorry,
Hi.
Sorry, we got cut out there for a second.
That's okay. No worries. It happens.
I think that is really interesting. And so would you say then we try and define our own happiness based on others' happiness, or trying to really give a false perspective of what happiness is?
I don't think we do it intentionally. I think it's one of those words, like many words, that we don't own it, we don't really understand it, and so we use it incorrectly. I always liken it to, those typical grammar mistakes, like there, and there. We just use it
Right.
wrong, so therefore we don't really understand how to use it correctly, but we use it all the time. And I think when we start to spend time with a word like happy, we are forced into maybe engaging in some self-love, which is difficult for a lot of people to do. And I think there's risk there, because if you finally define what makes you happy, then it could be taken from you. And maybe it would morph into something else, which is, I think, a brilliant thing to do, because what makes us happy on Tuesday doesn't necessarily make us happy on Thursday, or what makes us happy at 15 doesn't make us happy at 50. And there should be this fluidity. But we take for granted that we know what that word is, because it's a simple little word. We use it all the time.
Right.
Right? Be happy. We're happy, right? And yet we don't really know what it is. And then you have these people talking, like coaches, and saying, the first thing you have to do is be happy. But I don't hear anybody actually talking about what that means.
Absolutely.
We just assume.
I feel that it's definitely one of those words, like the word selfish. Selfish is often seen as a word that's really negative, and that one shall not be selfish. But
Right.
the root word of selfish is actually being able to provide for yourself as a whole.
Yes.
So I think with happiness, it's something that I feel that in order to be happy, that's definitely a choice, and I think it's something that's built, and I think that there's always, you need to be aware of what makes you happy and what makes you unhappy, and it's completely fair to say that you cannot be happy all the time, and that's just normal. But when you feel those instances, be aware of how your emotions are acting and why you're acting in that way.
Right. Yeah, it's because if we don't know what it is, how do we know how to appropriately respond to it, or how to create more of it, which is ultimately the goal.
Right. So it's probably something that is understood on a person to person basis, and therefore it has multiple meanings, really.
Oh, for sure. Like what makes me happy, totally different than what makes you happy. I'm pretty sure of it, just because we're different people. Yeah. And then I also read this other book called Bliss. I think maybe it's called The Geography of Bliss. And a gentleman who wrote it is chronically unhappy, and he's unhappy about being unhappy. And he went to, there are some people who are unhappy and they're cool with it. And there's even a word for his condition. I can't remember what it is, but yeah. So he went to the Happiness Institute, because there is actually such a place, and they study happiness around the world. And he decided to do some research there, and then went to the happiest and the most unhappy countries in the world based on the happiness index. And he reported back in this book about it, but it was really quite interesting. And again, it allowed me to explore my relationship with happiness. And once you start looking into things and start reading what people have out there, it's so very interesting.
I agree. I think when it comes to knowledge and to be able to really provide yourself with all the information that you can in the field that you're trying to acquire. And I'll go back into the topic of speech or
Mm-hmm.
stuttering or being able to basically attain my goal and what it is I want to do. I think it's going to come down to being able to surround myself with the people who are currently doing what it is I hope to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think it comes down to being able to constantly learn and be willing to know that I can always learn something from others,
Mm-hmm.
and that in hindsight I don't know what anybody else knows.
Right.
So therefore I can attain so much more.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, then just being able to be focused again on that one area which you're trying to attain in that time. And I say in that time because I think we, again, as you mentioned, what you enjoy doing today, you might not enjoy doing 5 years from now. So it's
Mm-hmm.
constantly being able to adapt. And with knowledge, I find that's the key factor too, because everything that is out there is a fact that has been created. So don't be scared to create your own facts.
Mm-hmm. I think that's excellent advice. Very good advice. And you're a perfect example of how you are so much more than the obstacles that you're facing. I think sometimes it can be very easy to make snap decisions about who somebody is and what they have to offer based on something as superficial as a stutter or skin color or sexual preference
Absolutely.
or whatever the case may be. But then and this is one of the things that I love about having this show, is I'm then able to talk to people like yourself and see how see beyond any of those obstacles and how much you have to contribute, and you have so much to contribute to the world. I'm excited to follow you and see where you end up.
Thank you. I I can't say thank you enough, and I think that's the real aim at what it is I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to empower people that there's a lot more than what meets the eye, and so when you allow your mind to really focus on that, then at that point you can really achieve what it is you want. And in regards to whatever challenge, hurdle, whatever stereotype that we may have, and this has been said over and over again. We can't judge a book by its cover, but what we need to be able to understand is that everybody does have something to offer. And so that's really been my end goal. And yes, I can definitely say that there's going to be people that might not believe what it is you're doing or might not have the same value in it, and that's okay, because at the end of the day we can't please everybody, but if we can at least pass on something to somebody, then the job has been done. And so that's
Yes.
that's the hope right now. And I also look forward to where this path takes me, and just trying to not forget about where you start and being able to again make it more meaningful. So I would love to just thank you for having me on the show. This is my first time on air. I hope it was I feel that it was fabulous, and I'm looking forward to being able to share again. And always open to feedback, and just wanting to start making that impact and be able to see where that takes me.
Yes, well, I suspect that you are making an impact everywhere you go. It's not something you're going to start doing. I suspect it is something that you are already doing, and that you have been doing it for quite some time. And thank you for taking the time to be on the show. Pleasure was absolutely all mine. And what a great treat for our listeners to hear where you've come from and where you're going.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. And again, if anybody wants to reach out, they've got my info, and always hoping to share with everybody. So.
Right. And so just to recap that, it's right. Karan, Karan, Wadhwani, Wadhwani. You can find him on Facebook or Instagram, which is KWADHWAN. Or you can email him and get that more personal touch, I suppose, at karan0793@gmail.com. So Wonderful. Thank you, and I hope we stay in touch.
Yes, that would be awesome.
Terrific. And I want to know how it goes with helping all those teachers communicate with their students.
Yes, I think I'll have to wait till I graduate for that one.
Oh, maybe not. You never know. Just keep putting it out there.
No, exactly.
All right. Well, we'll talk soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.
Okay. Bye. So until next Thursday, speak up because you have something to say and I want to hear it.
Thanks for hanging out with Natural Born Speakers. But don't stop now. Contact Allison with questions to be a guest or hire her as a speaker. Go to dominothinking.com. See you same place and time next week.